Good evening. Welcome to the Chandler City Council meeting of Thursday, April 26, 2018. Would like the clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Tip-Straney.
Here.
Vice Mayor Ellen.
Here.
Councilmember Rowe.
Here.
Councilmember Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Wong.
Here.
Councilmember Hartke.
Here.
Councilmember Stewart.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. The invocation tonight will be led by Pastor Mike Gowans, Bethel Church. Is he here? And the Pledge of Allegiance is not going to be led by Boy Scout Troop 255. It's going to be led by Boy Scout Troop 55. Welcome, 55. You guys are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance after the invocation. Pastor.
Thank you, Mayor. Bow your head. Heavenly Father,
We are so thankful to you for your goodness and your mercy in our lives, for all your amazing blessings. God, for making this city such a great city with great leaders, great servants. Lord, I pray humbly tonight, but confidently, because of what your Son has done for us, that we can come, I can come before your throne room of grace and ask boldly that you'd pour down continued blessings on this city. Lord, I pray for the mayor and all the council people tonight and everyone else here in this room, that the spirit of wisdom and revelation would fall upon everyone. God, for the peace that transcends all understanding would be in our hearts. Jesus, you said, there will be trouble in this life, but be of good cheer because you are with us. And so we ask for your wisdom and for your comfort, the wisdom to make the right decisions. Lord, continue to place your hand on this city. Lord, expand the tent pegs of influence. Let it be a light, Lord, to the surrounding cities, the state, and even this nation, God. Lord, as we serve selflessly, as the leaders here in this room continue to serve you selflessly, God, let it bring honor to your name. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Boy Scout Troop number 55. Good job. Next item on the agenda, Council, is the consent agenda. What is your desire?
Mayor?
Councilmember Hart.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda of April 26, 2018.
I second.
Motion by Councilmember Hart, second by Councilmember Lopez. Council, we do have some people that have weighed in with speaker cards and comment cards on item number 13. So I will first go to the speakers. You'll have 3 minutes to address the council on your item. First speaker on item 13 is Margie De La Rosa. Margie, if you could come up here and give us your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman. My name is Margie De La Rosa. I am a homeowner of Ray Manor community that is off of McQueen, Jackson, and Ray. And my inquiry is the development that is planned for the Jackson Brighton Place project, which happens to be right behind my wall. My concern is that this project is inquiring to put 50 plus homes, one-car garage rentals in that area with only one entrance to go in and out. That entrance happens to be right behind my wall, directly. Along with that concern is that the road, Jackson Road, is only about 20 feet wide. It accommodates another community, the older community down the road, a newer community, and the condos, along with the fire station number 9. My concern, of course, is the congestion and the fact that only one entrance coming in and out is going to cause a lot of havoc of those trying to get out during rush hour and those trying to come in, coming home from work. Along with that, in the past, another developer had tried to also put single family homes. 25 was their plan. Same thing, one entrance in and out. And again, the whole thought of the congestion, the fact that between Ray and Jackson, there is always accidents that come in that corner because of the sun that beams to the opposite side of the drivers. They can't see the incoming traffic. So there's always an accident there in that corner. And it never seems to amaze me that there's always a car that falls into the ditch that happens to be right there. The fire station. That fire station has 2 trucks, very long trucks. During the month, when they're doing their maintenance and their check, they happen to park behind my wall, along with my next door neighbor. And that is such a large truck that it also blocks the one-way, one of the roads there. This project, which I don't believe that they can possibly alter, they could possibly alter their interests. This was previously zoned for businesses, which would have, of course, their addresses of Ray Road applied there. There is a merger that would go out of that interest that's off of Ray, and also another entrance off of Ray behind in that corner, which happens to be an old market site. It's the possibility if this investor would consider to give up their investment that they would get for each lot and accommodate these occupants or these homes with much wider streets, more entrances for these occupants, and absolutely making the entrances a bit wider for emergency services. So the ambulance would be able to accommodate going into these residence streets, because even between the residents, it looks small. And for being a single car garage, which is, nowadays it's unreal. Everyone has more than one car and a double car garage, and these are renters. So they're moving in and out, and so they use their garages for storages, not to park their car in. So even the driveways to these homes are going to be congested with more than just one vehicle, and also probably being parked on the street, which again is going to not accommodate the occupants trying to get in and out of their own streets. So, of course, being that my wall is right directly from their planned entrance, my big concern, of course, is the safety and the fact that any moment a car can come just crashing right through my wall. Also, the fact that every night and day, or every night, headlights are going to be beaming into my bedroom in that back wall there. I'm concerned, of course, because I have lived there for 20 years. I love my home as well as the community, and the concern about those cars coming into or ramming into the back walls, it can be causing a fatal situation. Not only that a car would go into my backyard, but the force of those cinder blocks can just ram into my home. It's not a very big backyard. If you need any further evidence, I can go over what one road that I thought of that I have seen for the past 10 years is extension between Guadalupe and Southern off of Grove Avenue. It's just a single long road extension, which happens to be more double the size than our Jackson Street. But again, that Grove intersection, Grove Avenue and extension, there is constantly an accident where a vehicle will run into one homeowners. yard.
Margie, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up, and we'll see if council has any questions on this.
Okay, certainly.
Thank you.
So just to reconsider that
Yes, thank you very much.
zoning. Thank you.
Council also weighing in on this with a comment card is Vicky Lipsky. She mentions it's only one road for this Brighton Place, one ingress and outlet right behind my house. Worried about increase in traffic congestion. Accident worried for current fire station. They won't have a safe and prompt access to the road. Another one from, well, that's Margie, also gave a written card. Council, any questions on that?
Through the mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Hart.
I'd certainly like traffic to respond. Someone can.
What staff person handled this? If you could put something up on the screen for us so we could see exactly what Ms. De La Rosa is talking about, that would be helpful.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Try to figure this one out real quick.
And kind of point out, you know, we can kind of see where Ray Road is and where the fire station is and where Miss De La Rosa's house is.
All right, now let's focus. Mr. Mayor, council members, so this is the project. We have Ray Road on the north, Jackson Street on the west. Our fire station is right here in that kind of southwest corner. This whole site, and I guess I'll kind of give some of our background as to how we review these projects. Prior to this ever coming to public hearing or even getting submitted as an official case, we have developers submit what's called a preliminary technical site plan review. And really what it is it's a big site plan. They submit it to us, they give us 5 copies, and we submit it to the various disciplines in the city. And so we have traffic look at it, our civil folks look at it, our site folks look at it, we have fire look at it, and then just our general team look at it. We then get all those comments and put them in a letter and then send it off to that development team and frequently have follow-up meetings. As part of that process, our traffic folks really scrutinize this to see, okay, is this going to create an impact? Is it safe movements? With this particular case, there were a couple comments, I think it was 3 comments, and it was just about how some of the curb radiuses needed to be a little bit larger. Nothing that impacted traffic or circulation out onto Jackson Street. So we do look at, is it going to create congestion? Is it inappropriate? Should they have different locations for drives, say on Ray Road? Is a better access point necessary? And through that process, none of those comments came up. So it was something that they certainly look at. And we follow up with the design team too. In addition to that, once they do make this submittal, we go through all those comments again, and then we partner with our traffic division and our civil division to review the plats and the plans that they've submitted, just to make sure all of our T's are crossed and our I's dotted. And so from a general overview, just looking at the safety of it in circulation, we have that covered because we really take a look at that. With this particular site, what's interesting is a long time ago, way back in the 80s, when all of this area was first zoned, this was actually designated as commercial. And so we have a couple of the really old plans going back to the 80s with full commercial development, even prior to the fire station coming on board. And in all of those plans, it was always shown as having some sort of access out onto Jackson Street. What that does, though, is when you look at residential versus commercial, many people think that you're going to get a lot of cars with the residential as people come and go. You're going to far exceed that when you have commercial. And so with that particular plan on this site, it was literally a strip mall where we had buildings all along here on the south side. We had drive-throughs on the north side. There was another access point that was just a right in, right out, but there was access on that west side on Jackson Street. And so from a residential standpoint, I understand that any new traffic is kind of bad traffic. But if you compare that with the potential for commercial, it is much better to have the residential. In addition to that, Jackson Street at the intersection of Ray Road is a signalized intersection. And so that will help get some of that movement out of there. Now, when we're looking at the number of access points, it is true there is only one access point. Again, that is reviewed during that pre-tech process and then subsequently when they make that formal submittal. But what's also important to note is that at this southeast corner, there is an emergency access. And so if an accident does happen out in front of Jackson Street, in front of the drive, and residents either need to get in or get out, there is that ability, the ability at that southeast corner for vehicles to get in and out, as well as emergency vehicles too. And so from a circulation standpoint, I think we have all the bases covered. We'd had everybody looked at it, and so there really weren't any issues with it. From a parking standpoint, because I heard that concern come up, this one actually exceeds our standards for parking. The main spine that comes in, it meets our regular street standards that allows for parking on both sides. In addition, each unit has a one-car garage, but their driveway allows for 2 additional cars. And so the design of this development, it is multifamily. They are for-rent apartments, but it is far different than any other sort of multifamily development that you've seen, in the sense that it really creates a single-family environment where all the parking can be accommodated on those driveways and in that garage. So working with that design team, we really think that this covers all those concerns from parking, circulation standpoint. So I know that's a little bit longer-winded than what I wanted, but I hope that addresses the question. Any other questions?
Yeah, Councilmember Hartke.
Follow-up. So I'm assuming that the commenter, her house is on the west side of Jackson. What's the fence height on that, and what's the buffer between the street and her fence?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Hartke, I don't know the specifics of all those answers. Generally speaking, though, when we have a single-family development, the standard wall height is going to be 6 feet. And so I will go on that assumption that it's 6 feet. It would be unlikely that it would be 7 or 8 feet. So with the 6 feet on top of that, looking at it, it looks just on the other side. There is not a landscape strip. It's a little bit difficult to tell, but then you're going to have the sidewalk width. And so there is some separation there. Granted, it could be more with some landscaping, but it's a little bit difficult to tell on that aerial.
Thank you.
What was the vote at the P&Z Commission?
Mr. Mayor, it was unanimous with the exception, I think we had one commissioner that was absent. So I think it was a 601. Yeah, that's correct. 6 in favor.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. On that wall, I know that 6 feet is generally the standard. Is it possible to amend that and you can go higher to alleviate the car lights from going in the back room or the back living room or whatever it may be? And also, do we do anything in the city as it relates to creating safety barriers, or if somebody were to run into the wall or come out of that neighborhood and drive into that wall, do we do anything like that? Or that seems, do you follow my question?
I'm following. Okay. Through the mayor, Councilmember Stewart, can we look at increasing the wall height? We certainly can. So we have a couple of stages. We have 6 foot, which is standard. We allow it to go up to 7. We then have the ability to go up to 8. The problem is when you start getting those higher wall heights, you need to engineer the wall. And in this case, if they wanted to take it up that, they'd have to take it down and then reconstruct it with the proper rebar and cement in there to make it sturdy because of that height. And so there is that concern with it. Is it possible? Yes. So we can get that. From a streetlight standpoint, I can't recall anything off the top of my head from a policy standpoint of looking at that. In this case, by and large, you're going to get cars that are, 4 or 5 feet. That's standard height with a headlight at about 3 feet. So I don't know if you're going to get some direct wash over the wall into a house. There's the potential, but by and large, I don't think that's going to be a big issue. From a speeding standpoint, that I would really have to look at one of our engineers to see if they could answer that one. But I'm inclined to say that with that street length, certainly somebody could get on it and bounce through it. But I don't see the likelihood of that because of that street's right there. So thankfully our fire station's right there too, so quick response.
Yeah.
Councilmember Lopez.
For the entrances, so we require 2 in and outs for emergency response vehicles. Is there any requirement that we have when it comes to some densities that they're, for the residents themselves, have 2 entrance and egress locations?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Lopez, we look at that when it comes down to the density and the overall number of units. And so in this particular case, It meets our requirements. There wasn't that concern. There's a couple other projects on tonight's agenda that are residential in nature too. And so we looked at those. And again, it went through that same process with traffic. And so when we get into larger developments with higher densities, we certainly look at multiple avenues to get out of a subdivision. In this particular case, the one was sufficient. There was also the single one with the single family development that was proposed back in 2012. But again, there is that emergency access just in case.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yeah, I like the look of this project. It's a good-looking project. I think her concern is legitimate in the sense if people speed out of that complex. Is that a private roadway, or is that one of our streets?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Rowe, it's private, and then it goes on to the public of Jackson Street.
Would we be able to require a speed bump or something that may encourage people to come out of there a little bit in a more controlled fashion?
Councilmember Rowe, that's certainly something we can look at, being private streets. I'm happy to talk with the developer. Where we run into issues is where does it locate and in front of whose unit? But that's certainly something we can explore.
Multi-housing is part of the general plan, and I understand that, but we make sure our projects are, every one of them is a good one.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? Thank you, Eric.
Certainly.
Council, you do have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Further discussion on the consent agenda? Will the council please vote? City Clerk, let the record reflect I'll be voting no on item 13.
Mayor, I'd also like to vote no on that.
Councilmember Rowe for the, okay. So the motion carries unanimously with the exception of item 13, which motion carries by majority with Councilmember Rowe and Mayor Tripp Cheney voting no on item 13.
Council, next item is action agenda. Item 39, resolution number 5117, amending citywide fee schedule relating to community services, public safety, fire and police, and public works and utilities department, which would become effective July 1, 2018. Staff, please present on the citywide fee schedule.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will be presenting on this evening. So before you is resolution 5117. Changing my screen here. This is a process we go through every year. Departments review the citywide fee schedule as part of our budget process. As part of the citywide fee schedule, there are many fees in there, most of which are assessed for use of facilities or services benefiting specific groups. And when we're calculating those fees, they typically reflect a recovery of cost to provide the service, and many times are below market comparisons because we of course want to be in line with other cities in the valley. So one of the things we review, first of all, is that the ability to charge the fee exists in our city code. And once we've confirmed that it does, then it becomes part of this process. We never put a dollar amount in our city code. It is incorporated into the citywide fee schedule through council review and the resolution process. There's a very specific process that we go through every time we update the citywide fee schedule, and it is in our city code 2-17. Each year this year, departments proposed fee updates, and that was in January and February of 2018. Those were reviewed. We made sure that there was code authority for those. And then that fee was reviewed and set with proper justification. It was then posted online on February 23rd for a minimum of 60 days. And then we put forth a notice of intent for the action item this evening, and that was posted and published 15 days prior to this evening. We also put that out on social media. We have received no comments regarding these fees. It's been pretty quiet overall. We have fees this evening that are from Community Services Aquatics, Public Safety, Fire and Police, as well as Public Works and Utilities. As you mentioned, Mayor, these fees would not become effective until July 1st, 2018. We've also included a few technical corrections. We take that opportunity when we update the citywide fee schedule to ensure if something needs clarification that we put the proper references to Arizona revised statutes or anything like that. So our first area of proposed fees is the community services fee. We just have one fee in this area that's being modified. And this fee, we received notice from an authorized provider agreement through Red Cross. And this is a pass-through fee that it's going up $1. Because we are so very transparent, even pass-through fees, any fee at all charged is included in the citywide fee schedule. The only ones that are not included would be those that have a completely separate process in the Arizona revised statute, such as utility fees or system development fees. So this is our first one. It is modified just by $1 within the fee schedule this evening. The next set of fees is public safety, fire, and police, and I'm going to ask that Tom Dwiggins, our fire chief, come forward to present these fees.
Thank you, Dawn. Mayor, members of the council, tonight I'll give a brief overview of 15 fees that are directly associated with our Public Safety Training Center. Of the 15 fees, only 3 impact the general public, and the remaining 12 fees are for outside fire departments only. So starting with the fees that impact the general public, we do have 1 new fee and 2 modified fees. As you know, we're currently under construction in phase 1 of our Public Safety Training Center, and that includes a 250-seat auditorium and multiple classroom space. The fees that impact the general public are a use fee for that auditorium, a use fee for the classrooms, which is both for phase 1, which is under construction right now, and the existing training center, fire training center that's been in place. And then finally, our last fee for the general public is for a janitorial fee if those services are needed. Moving on to the 12 fees that impact outside fire departments only. We do have 3 new fees, 8 modified fees, and 1 deleted fee. The 3 fees that are new, again, are part of the expansion that's been going on for over a year now at the training center. The first one is a vertical ventilation prop, which is where our firefighters practice cutting holes on different pitched roofs. The second one is the Class A burn building, which was completed almost a year ago. And then the third one is a public safety training liaison. What that position is either a firefighter or a police officer that is on overtime that will be present when outside fire departments or police departments come to our facility to train to make sure that they are following all the safety standards, whether it's through OSHA or NFPA. The 8 modified fees are fees that are currently in place at the training center right now. These fees are really specific to the different training props that we have on our site. I can tell you there are skills training area fee. There's a sheeting fee, which is actually the OSB or the plywood that goes on the ventilation prop. There's the 6-story existing burn tower fee, confined space and technical rescue props. There's an outside burn prop, which is our big propane tanks, and then our cars that are fed by propane, our flashover chamber, a forcible entry prop fee, and then finally a hydrant connection fee. All of these fees, as I said, were already in place. They have been modified to either update what the description of the fee is, or in the past, we do provide quarterly fire training to multiple cities through an IGA, and we used to waive those fees when they wanted to use the facility outside of normal training hours. Moving forward, we will require them to pay the fees if they want to use the facility. Finally, our last fee is a driver's training area fee, and this fee is actually for a pad that was in place before we had our Class A burn building, but since that construction was completed, we no longer have that area, so we are going to delete that fee. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Council, questions of the fire chief on the public safety fees? Thank you, Chief.
Okay, I'd like to ask Ryan Peters to come forward and present the proposed fees for Public Works and Utilities.
Which fees is he going to present?
For Public Works and Utilities.
Okay.
On small cell.
Thank you, Don. Mayor and Council, in 2016, the legislature passed House Bill 2365, establishing the regulatory framework for the small wireless facilities in the right-of-way. Small wireless facilities are intended to be co-located on existing vertical infrastructure throughout the city that, in order to support what is expected to be the next generation of wireless technology. In the time since the bill passed, the city has been working towards implementing the new program in order to be prepared for applications. Design guidelines were adopted in late 2016, and then in early 2017, Council approved some of the application and right-of-way fees prescribed by statute. For your consideration tonight are the fees associated with consolidated applications and applications for poles greater than 50 feet in height. Statute allows up to 25 sites on a single application if the sites on that application are substantially similar. Statute also prescribes the fees for these applications, $100 for the first 5 on that consolidated application, and then $50 for applications 6 through 25. The category of small wireless facilities located on poles greater than 50 feet in height are assumed in statute as having a greater impact on the right-of-way and would be subject to additional scrutiny. The fees for these structures are proposed to be $1,000 for the application and $450 per year for the use of the right-of-way. All these fees are associated with the Small Wireless Facility Program, are intended to be competitively neutral and offset the cost of managing the right-of-way. This concludes my brief presentation, and I'm available.
Thank you, Ryan.
Mayor.
Yes, questions of Mr. Peters?
I noticed in the fee schedule, there's also a new replacement pole fee. So is that if they need, or if the pole has to be replaced in order to accommodate? Or is that if they damaged it, or both, I guess?
Mayor and Councilmember Lopez, the new annual right-of-way fee is associated with the use of the right-of-way, and that's the replacement of the poles that would, be new. So if it's a new pole going in the right-of-way, there's a fee associated with that if it's greater than 50 feet. If it's a new pole that is can be co-located on something that already exists, but it's a replacement of that, then that's an additional, then that's a fee that is already established.
Okay, so these are their poles, it's not the actual pole it's going onto. Okay, I got you. Right.
Councilmember Stewart.
Ryan, thanks for the presentation. As we move to 5G, it's important that we do what we can as a city to facilitate that. I do have a question, though, as it relates to the cost of these projects. We have a certain limit that we can charge as based on state statute. Do you foresee this costing the Chandler taxpayer any additional dollars to support the business of putting these 5G lines up or these poles up?
Mayor and Councilmember Stewart, it's really hard to predict the cost of the city. The fees are intended to offset the cost of the use of the right-of-way. The impact of co-locating on streetlights was intended, we negotiated that through statute. The impact of a footprint of a 50-foot tall pole is something that we evaluated, and it's obviously has a bigger impact as it's a new pole and a new structure that has a bigger footprint on the right-of-way. This all kind of goes into the blend of the overall cost of maintaining that right-of-way on behalf of the citizens of Chandler.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Is that all?
Yes, Mayor, that is our presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any before taking action.
Okay, council, what's your pleasure?
I'll do it. Mayor.
Councilmember Lopez.
I move for the approval of resolution number 5117, amending the citywide fee schedule relating to the Community Services, Public Safety, Fire and Police, and Public Works and Utilities Departments, which will be effective July 1st, 2018.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lopez, second by Councilmember Rowe. Further discussion from the council? Council, please vote the motion.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Council, we have a couple of public hearings this evening, followed by a special meeting. Council, the first public hearing is Downtown Chandler Enhanced Municipal Services District Assessment for fiscal year 2018-2019. Would like to open the public hearing at this time and ask for staff to present.
Mayor, Council, tonight I'm here to present the fiscal year 18-19 Enhanced Municipal Services District Annual Assessment. The EMSD was created in 2005 and is currently in its 13th year. It's boundaried in the downtown from Chandler Boulevard down to Fry Road and from Essex Street over to Delaware Street. The district covers 61 acres and over 1 million square feet of commercial space. The EMSD was formed to provide public services up and beyond typical services elsewhere in the city. Such services include safety, beautification, marketing and promotion, and professional management and communications. These services are provided by the Downtown Chandler Community Partnership, the DCCP, through an annual contract with the city, which will be brought forward to City Council next month for possible approval. During fiscal year 17-18, the DCCP participated in over 20 special events, including weekly farmers markets and monthly art walks, Cajun Fest, Rocking Taco Festival, the Great American Beer and Barbecue Festival, and partnering with the city on Jazz Fest. The DCCP assists with light lines throughout the downtown, managing the street light banners along Arizona Avenue, and updating the informational kiosk on a quarterly basis. And recently, they've remodeled the AJ Chandler bathrooms as well. New this year, the DCCP contracted with Block by Block to provide 35 hours of additional street cleaning per week that includes 2 part-time clean team members. These clean team members assist with picking up trash, cigarette butts, gum, cleaning trash can lids, and many other responsibilities through downtown's busiest nights and weekends. They can be easily identified by their bright yellow shirts and hats. They've been a huge help to the downtown in the last couple months. To further expand upon the EMSD process, the assessment was authorized by the property owners in the district with 100% of the annual proceeds being paid by the district. The City Council is the governing body who officially enables the district, and the district has to be renewed each year. There's 4 annual steps to include. The first is to set the rate by the council. This rate has remained the same since its inception in 2005. The second step is to tentatively approve the assessment by council, which was completed on March the 22nd, as well as setting the hearing date for tonight. The third step was the public hearing and resolution of approval. The staff did publish a notice of the hearing as required by ARS 5 consecutive days before the hearing, and the DCCP staff sent notices to all the property owners in the district of their right to file an objection. No objections have been received at this time. We'll return one more time on May 24th for a possible approval of the contract with the DCCP to administer the Enhanced Municipal Services District. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Councilmember Lopez.
I did want to say that I noticed the new cleaning crew that's down there, and because of that, I took a look around. So I never really noticed the downtown being all that dirty. But I'll tell you, now that I look around, it definitely looks clean. It's not just picked up and not messy, but it actually looks clean. So kudos to the additional enhancement for that cleaning crew. They've been doing a great job. So thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Stewart.
Kim, does that mean, like back in the neighborhoods, that the street cleaners go back and sweep in front of homes and things like that as well?
The clean team actually cleans within the Enhanced Municipal Services District, so just within those boundaries. They pay special attention to the historic district because the historic district underneath the colonnade area actually pays double the assessments of anybody else within the EMSD. So they'll start from the middle and work their way out. So sometimes when they have enough time and things are clean, they do go to the outskirts, but they always start in the middle and work their way out.
Further questions of Kim? Thank you. Discussion from the audience? Okay, close the public hearing. This time, public hearing number 2, which is the proposed local alternative expenditure limitation, better known as the home rule option. At this time, I would like to open the public hearing, ask for staff presentation on the home rule option. Staff.
Hello again, Mayor and Council.
You're back.
I'm back. Yes, so tonight we will talk in this public hearing about the 2018 proposed local alternative expenditure limitation. This is our second hearing that we are holding. The last was April 12th. So just to give a little bit of background on home rule, the state law actually implemented home rule on June 3rd of 1980. They passed an expenditure limitation on cities and towns, but they allowed for, the formula itself allowed for population increases annually. It started with the expenditures in 1979-80 in a city. And just to put this in perspective, Chandler was at a population of about 23,500 at the time. Then it allows for an annual population and inflation increase, and then some exclusions as well, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But because municipalities evolve differently depending on the expansion plans of a community, state law also allowed for some alternative formulas. Home rule is one of them. The home rule allows the city to override the state-imposed spending limitation. This frees the community of any ties to the state-imposed limitation and permits mayor and council, along with local electors of the community, to decide program service levels and methods of financing capital improvements. It provides flexibility to establish the city budget based on anticipated revenues, and of course, our city has a very transparent, open budget process with public input throughout. Chandler voters have approved the home rule option 9 consecutive times since 1982. The process requires us to reestablish the authority every 4 years, and our authority will actually run out it would be July 1st, 2019 is when it would need to be reestablished. So it does require 2 public hearings. This is the second we're holding. Immediately following this public hearing, there will be a special meeting held that will require action by council on a resolution, and it would need a 2/3 majority vote. So we're now to the point that we can provide our actual calculation. Staff has been working on what this would mean for us what the shortfall would be should home rule not be passed by the voters. So we started with looking at what our state computed spending limit is for 1920. And to do that, we had to take our current spending limit and apply the inflation factor and growth factor and population. And that became a number of $248 million. We then can identify specific revenues such as interest income, bond proceeds, grants, the secondary property tax that pays our debt service costs. Those are all considered excludable items, so we can add those items to the $248 million. Once we do that, the total that the city of Chandler would be allowed to spend in the first year, FY 1920, would be $450 million. Now, the next step would be to look at where we currently are. What is our estimated spending based on our services we provide in our community? The city's anticipated spending, we started with our proposed budget that has been brought forward to mayor and council, and that is for the 18-19 year of $875 million. We then applied the inflation, the growth factor, all of that to bring it to the 19-20. We looked through all those expenditures and determined how much of the $875 million would be actual spending for us. So many times, capital projects will span numerous years, so we're looking at how much we would actually spend in the first year. We also incorporate reserves and contingencies, so those typically wouldn't get spent. So our estimated actual expenditures are $368 million out of that. Then we're able to add those exclusions again, $202 million in exclusions, to bring us to a total of $570 million. The difference between our calculated estimated spending for 1920 of $570 million and the state-imposed limitation of $450 million is $120 million in spending authority.
Where's the 450 million? Okay, it's the top number.
Yes, the first number was the state-imposed limitation after we worked the calculation. So we compare that against what we would anticipate spending based on our capital projects and the services we provide in our community, and that is $570 million. So that difference is $120 million delta. That would be the amount of spending authority that would not be available to the city of Chandler without approval of home rule.
Where does the 875 million tie into the 570 million?
Mayor, excellent question. When we're calculating it, we're looking at our most up-to-date numbers, and the most up-to-date numbers is the $875 million 18-19 proposed budget. We then have to take that and project what the budget or what the spending would be, the budget and spending would be in 1920. So it's a calculation that starts that with that as the base year, and then calculates what we anticipate spending in 1920, which would be the first year of the newly approved home rule. Okay? So 120 million is the delta that we're looking at as we move into the first year of home rule 1920. If that is not available for spending for us, what that would mean for the city of Chandler, our potential impacts would be perhaps reductions in street maintenance, could be deferral or cancellation of many of our capital projects, reductions in public safety funding or rec or aquatics or library programs. One thing to note is that the revenues in our city would still continue to come in. We would have already set our property tax rates. We will have we have a transaction privilege tax or sales tax rate. The money will continue to flow into the city. We would just not be able to spend it because of the state-imposed limitation. So home rule is very, very important for the city of Chandler. The 2018 home rule election schedule, there's a very specific process that we follow. Following the 2 public hearings, tonight there will be a special meeting. The special meeting has a resolution that is approving continuing home rule for the city of Chandler, as well as putting this on the ballot on August 28th for the primary election. On April 27th, the city clerk would publish record of the vote and the amount over the limit that we've calculated and the purpose. And then on April 30th, city staff would be required to send the financial worksheets to the city auditor, and they'll review the calculation. April 30th to May 30th, the public notice of argument filing period. Then on June 8th, the public voting pamphlet is sent to the Auditor General. August 1st, we distribute the pamphlet to the public. And then August 28th would be the election day for other things as well as home rule. And September 13th, the final step would be to actually canvass the election. That is my presentation this evening for the public hearing. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Council, questions, discussion? At this time, I would like to go to the audience. We do have a speaker card here from a Rick. Human. If we could have your name and address for the record, sir.
Mayor's member of the council, Rick Human, 4310 West Dublin Street. I'm here tonight representing the Chamber of Commerce. I currently serve as the Public Policy Chair to support Home Rule. Our Board of Directors last week unanimously voted to support the Home Rule. As Dawn did a very good job of explaining to this, and I've been up on the dais when we did this a couple times before, Chandler is a very well-run city, very transparent. We're talking about dollar increases in revenue fees. So people should be very pleased how this council's been for many, many years. It's approved 9 different times in the past. This enables our city to be run properly. AAA bond rating, one of the only less than 30 cities in America to be able to do that. So I think our public should be very aware that this money is being spent wisely. And that's why we have companies like we have Orbital ATK that opened up yesterday with their rocket launch, and all the other companies that come to Chandler. So I'm just here on behalf of the Chamber to support the Home Rule Initiative. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Rick, and thanks for your support of this, and thank the Chamber for their support. Other input from the audience on this issue? Okay, at this time, Council, we will close the public hearing. We're going to adjourn this meeting and then go to our special meeting. Meeting adjourned. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Chandler City Council Special Council meeting. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Tibshraeny?
Here.
Vice Mayor Ellen? Here. Councilmember Rowe?
Here.
Councilmember Lopez?
Here.
Councilmember Wong?
Yes.
Councilmember Hartke?
Here.
Councilmember Stewart?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Council, we do have the first item on this meeting agenda is resolution number 5156, recommending the continuation of the local alternative expenditure limitation home rule option. In addition, recommend the local alternative expenditure limitation home rule option be submitted to the voters of the city of Chandler at the primary election for August 28, 2018. Council, what's your pleasure?
Mayor?
Councilmember Hartke.
Would it be appropriate to, I suppose, take each resolution separately, or?
We can do them separate. I think we'll do them separately.
Okay, I'll take the first one then. I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 5156, recommending the continuation of the local alternative expenditure limitation home rule option. In addition, recommend the local alternative expenditure limitation home rule option be submitted to the voters of the city of Chandler at the primary election scheduled for August 28th, 2018.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hartke, second by Councilmember Lopez. Further discussion from the council, from the audience? Council, you have the issue before you. Will you please vote?
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. The next item, Council, is resolution number 5150, authorizing the 2018-2019 annual assessment for the city of Chandler, Arizona, downtown Chandler Enhanced Municipal Services District.
Mayor?
Councilmember Rowe.
Yep. I'd like to make a motion that we accept resolution number 5150, authorizing the 2018-2019 annual assessment for the city of Chandler, Arizona, downtown Chandler Enhanced Municipal Services District.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Councilmember Rowe, second by Councilmember Stewart. Further discussion from the council or the audience? Council, please vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Council, next item on the agenda is unscheduled public appearances. Members of the audience may address any item not on the agenda. State statute does prohibit the city council from discussing an item that is not on the agenda, but the city council does listen to your concern and have staff follow up as may need be. Doug Stites. Can we get your name and address for the record?
My name is Doug Stites. I reside at 1222 North McCamey Avenue, 85226 in Chandler. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and council members. Monday evening, I and 2 other members of our club made a request for the use of some vacant land owned by the city of Chandler. I'd like to offer some additional information. First of all, our request would not be at any expense to the city, as we only seek the use of the land. We supply our own field equipment consisting of sunshades and a fabric runway. The fabric is pulled taut and then stapled to the ground. So when it's time to vacate, it's as simple as pulling the staples and literally just rolling it up. We pride ourselves on the area that we occupy. As a result, we keep the area clean, furnishing our own trash cans and disposal. I believe the packet that Pat provided provides a letter from the city of Gilbert supporting we were good stewards of the land and work with the city as needed. If not, we can provide that for you. We also work with the air traffic controllers to be sure there weren't any conflicts with the Chandler Municipal Airport, and this location is further from the airport, so we don't anticipate that there's going to be any issues with that either. As we did in Gilbert, we would like to make the same offer to the Chandler Parks and Recreation. On the first Saturday of each month, an AMA certified trainer with all the required equipment will provide free flight lessons for anyone starting or considering getting into the hobby for free versus having to invest in the equipment first. The City of Gilbert published this in their Parks and Recreation events list, as could Chandler. We work with the students in the Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math program, or better known as STEM. Being located so close to another school will continue to give the students the opportunity to get involved. We have experts on flying, electronics, radio programming, and other areas to assist the students. Our members are culturally diverse, and our professions include commercial airline pilots, a doctor, retired law enforcement, white-collar business, veterans, and etc. It's also a good way to meet people. It wasn't uncommon for the local residents to stop by and visit with us and ask us questions. This includes people who were just driving by, walking, riding their horses or bicycles. We would only physically occupy about 1/10% of the area, just using the airspace over the remainder of the property, leaving it undisturbed. And we believe this is what sets us apart from other uses that would have contact with the ground, such as riding horses and things of that nature. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, you may have already done this, not council, but staff, but make sure he's aware of Food Park and the availability to do what they're asking to do at Food Park. Any other unscheduled public appearances? Okay, council, the next item is current events. Just a couple of things on my end this evening. National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. Our police department is taking part in this program on Saturday at the downtown Okatee at the southwest corner of Dobson and Queen Creek Roads. Old prescription drugs will be accepted for safe disposal. Please note that liquid drugs, inhalers, and needles will not be accepted. The event runs from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and also includes the department's semi-annual shred-a-thon. The summer issue of Break Time magazine is out. Council, you all got one, I think, up on the dais tonight. And here's a reminder that registration for Chandler residents begins at 10 a.m. on Saturday, May 5th for the classes and programs scheduled in Break Time. If you're not a subscriber to Break Time, you can view it online. And that registration online is on the screen, but it's chandleraz.gov/breaktime. There you will find a comprehensive list of all the classes, sports leagues, and programs we offer through our Parks and Recreation Division. Council, all of you were in attendance yesterday at the Orbital ATK groundbreaking. You all worked closely with the developer and Orbital ATK to help make that happen. That was really a spectacular event. It's nice to see that being broken ground. It's going to be 600,000 square feet to accommodate Orbital ATK and their expansion in Chandler. They're currently on the Price Corridor leasing a building on the South Corridor, and then also up further north off the 202, they're leasing from Allred in that building. They'll consolidate their operations, at least that's what they're planning to do, from those two locations into this, although there is a chance they could remain in the 202 space because their growth is so spectacular that they don't know quite how much space they're going to need in the future. They should be operational in that space by fall of 2019. So that was good. I think that speaks well to the council's vision on protecting Price Road and the corridor for high tech, for high wage paying jobs, and protecting it from residential development and other encroachment that would impact that corridor. So we're very happy that they chose Chandler. There was competition. We did have a legitimate contender in Utah. So it's nice to see this happen in Chandler. Representation yesterday included representation from the governor's office, as well as Senator Bob Worsley representing the legislature, and a lot of the construction folks and the architecture folks and the developer folks and other people involved with the project. So it was really good, and it's nice to see that happen, and a lot of jobs, and real happy to see that all come to fruition yesterday. With that, Councilmember Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't say a lot tonight. I will tell you that education is clearly on everybody's mind for obvious reasons, and it's an important subject. And so I just want to mention, I had the great honor of interviewing Dr. Sally Downing. She runs the East Valley Institute of Technology here in the East Valley, and students from all over the state attend that facility and learn trades, and those trades are available to students and adults. So it's an important project, and it's been going for years now, and it's a well-kept secret. So if you want to know more about it, go on the City of Chandler YouTube channel and watch our interview, and you'll be surprised at what EVIT is doing here in the East Valley.
Councilmember Lopez.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, again, the partnership we have with Orbital ATK. Not only are they a great business partner, and we have the great relationship that, they love working here. And again, like you mentioned, there was a lot of competition in order to keep them from leaving Chandler. But they do more than just run a great business and protect the nation. They have great partnerships in the East Valley, especially with Chandler. They have seats on their Education Coalition. They have been very involved in a lot of our STEAM events and the Science Spectacular that we run. We ran this last time in February, the major sponsor, along with Intel. And they've also were very involved with Symphony Orchestra and, again, all the STEAM events. So I'd also like to say that, it's great to see that one of our great friends and partners, Orbital ATK, is staying in Chandler. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ellen.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm looking on Twitter. So our city is on Twitter, and also our police, fire, a lot of our departments are on Twitter, Facebook, and now we're on Instagram. So follow us. We have a lot of great information to share. A couple things that our Chandler police shared this week was about distracted drivers. And it's a lot of people who are even on prescription drugs. About 64% of people who are on prescription drugs don't think it affects their driving, but it does, and then texting. Also, very importantly, April is, besides being Distracted Drivers Month, it is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And I love the tweet that Chandler Police put out a couple of days ago about how trafficking is child abuse and the vulnerable are often targeted. Human trafficking, it is actually a public health issue, impacts individuals, families, and communities. And sadly, there are about 5 children that die unnecessarily every day from child abuse. So we want you to encourage, you to stand up, speak up, and report what you see. There's actually an 800 number, it's 800-4-A-CHILD that you can call and help save a life and save a child. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Wong.
Okay, this morning I attend the Maricopa Association of Governments Joint Planning Advisory Council Sun Corridor Edge 2018 event. One of the main topics was about transportation and infrastructure maintenance. It was strongly suggested by a few speakers an increased tax on gasoline, which the city, we are not doing anything on that, okay? Teacher walkout is apparently the most profound issue this week. It affects a lot of families. Please note that the city has no jurisdiction over school districts. However, we have been notified by the Chandler Unified School District that classes will resume on Monday, April 30. And tomorrow we will have an all-day budget section in the council chambers. The meeting will not be televised, but the minutes will be available to the public. Chandler's 6 public pool and aqua centers will open in May. City office will be closed on Monday, May 28th for Memorial Day. Many people have no idea, but no, many people are asking, actually trash and recycling will not be affected. So please tell your neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember, appreciate that. Councilmember Hartke.
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to commend our economic development staff, our planning, our legal, city manager for all the work that went into what we have called Chandler's worst kept secret in terms of the orbital ATK project finally coming to place. This is a project that is lined up with our vision, with my vision for years now, as we've been working with Allred to see what they can do and would do on the Price Corridor. And as I think there's been a lot of conversations, but this really aligned perfectly with what we were looking for, which was a single large campus. And so thank you to also former Councilmember Human, who also had a lot of input on that. This is really just a huge win for the city, for Allred, for Orbital ATK, and certainly for us. And I'm just very excited that the way this has come about and the way this will continue to set the stage for future in Chandler, for jobs and for the development of our high-tech corridor. And secondly, I do want to commend dozens of volunteers that I met with this morning. A man by the name of Steve Bishop opened up his space yesterday on South Arizona Avenue, and we packed 7,000 snack packs that were given out to organizations like the Boys and Girls Club and ICANN and faith communities and the JCC and others that were taking in children because of the school lockdown, and they were just without resources. So it was an amazing group of volunteers. It just speaks of what Chandler is and what Chandler does. I remember about 8 months ago, we formed what we called a crisis management team working with nonprofits to address what would happen if something fell outside the view of Red Cross, of emergency, of our fire, of our police, of our school, and came up with a team that was just willing to address issues in our community. And we were more thinking that it was going to happen of a power outage like what prompted this group to initiate last summer. But it was a perfectly poised group to be able to gather resources and speak to what do we do with children who have needs, and unanticipated application. But Chandler's great at bringing people together to get things done. So kudos to all mentioned and all who are involved. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
No? So there we go.
Councilmember Stewart.
I was on that whole time. Even knew.
We didn't know.
Thank you. So yeah, the orbital expansion is huge, and it has a big piece to do with the fact that we have the #2 rated school district in the Chandler School District, and Kyrene's right up there as well. Having a strong education in our community is huge, and we are successful, I think, at that regard because we handle it locally. When things are put in front of Chandler community to support our schools, we generally do that through both money, but also it's run like a business. And when you look at some of the things regarding our school district, it's run extremely well and extremely efficiently, much like the city. So 2 times this week, I actually heard from developers or people that are trying to do business with the city, and they said it's second to none to anybody that they work with around the state as it relates to getting things done in the city. So what that means is that our city is providing a customer service, not only to its residents, but to people that want to do business here. And that's another big factor on why I think we were able to win the orbital expansion. So those things were set way in advance of where we were, where we are today in planning for a Price Corridor. And I was telling that story to somebody today, that hanging on to that land and making sure that it stayed valuable and remained open for campuses like Orbital took a lot of vision a long, long time ago when it was being roamed by cows. So it's very important that, and I think everyone would agree, that we continue down that path with that land. And so the other thing is, this morning, I never talk this much, but I got a few things. We had the governor's prayer breakfast, and I was fortunate enough to have 5 of our council members there with me this morning, and we shared a morning of unity that didn't have anything to do with politics. It just had to do with spirituality, whatever that may be for you. And it was just a good morning of community. And we did some praying for our leadership as it relates to the school situation and the funding. And we just spent some time together reflecting on what it means to be in service of our community as elected officials. And it was just a great turnout. It all came together. So thank you for coming this morning and being a part of that. I'm also the Arizona chairman for the Job Creators Network. And on Tuesday, May 1st at 6 p.m. at Santan Brewery, we will have the Job Creators Network Small Business Rally. And what we're doing is inviting small business owners and the chambers involved as well to come to downtown Chandler. It is one of maybe 4 or 5 stops nationally on the tour, and we're going to celebrate what impact small businesses have in our community and really talk about possibly making the federal tax cuts permanent, which really has helped our small businesses tremendously. And it also has helped our bigger companies like Intel and Orbital and things like that as well be competitive globally. So as I run out of breath, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. As Councilmember Wong mentioned, tomorrow, about 12 hours from now, we will all be back here for a riveting day of budget. So I look forward to seeing everybody in the morning. We will be providing at 7:45 a small continental breakfast for Mayor and Council. So just wanted to let you know that. We'll be ready to get started at 8:15. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, meeting adjourned.